Alright, so welcome back here, looking at how to secure yourself financially. Uh, so, uh, after I went to look at the featured content, a course, staying investment in the market section and the market in terms and recovery, and now how I'm looking at the market downturns and recovery, but for asset classes such as start now, such as stocks, bonds, and some other assets in and other classes alone with some portfolio structures. So we'll also look at the correlation at different assets with the broader market. This is something very, very interesting to me because, especially from the context where I come, Venezuela, where you have a high uncertainty of what the is going on here in the gray. So the big picture is that you as a Venezuelan or anyone for any third world country, all right, uh, they don't belong to the financial or the mainstream financial economy system. And because of that, your opinion first doesn't matter, or matter later, or and you don't have the resource to do something, to get some, or to provide you with more options. By option means that place where you can go, things that you can learn or experience, and so on. So I decide definitely to look at this is because this is one of the things that anybody must learn, you like it or not, because this system is aligned deeply at one of the core things that bind us as human: survival. Right? So the more you're able to uh, organize your resource and allocate them, so you will have much more, not only money and time, but also options to decide where you should want to go, where will you like your life will be, right? And this is something that is happening right now at every second. And luckily for us, uh, for the gray or for good or bad, this economic system has provided is a way to transfer wealth without killing each other. Well, that's me. That's me being devil advocate, right? So, in any case, for that reason and so on, so I started to look here at the bond yield during recession. Okay, there are main or there are driven factors such as the demand for loan and uh, the supply, the demand and supply for loans, the monetary policy, and the inflation. So because the Fed use the federal fund rates and the uh, discount rate as it is primary tool to set monetary policy, so during a contraction, the demand for loans falls and the Fed lower rates to stimulate consumer spending, to make an expansion phase. And during that, the Fed wants to keep inflation at check, or they want to keep inflation in check and tightening the monetary policy by increasing the interest rate in this case. So the short-term interest rate, such as the Treasury bill, has a close correlation with the federal fund rates. These rates that indicate what is the rate at which commercial banks lend from each other. Uh, so the short term, like the Treasury bill, have a close correlation with the federal fund rate, which the Fed targets through open market operations. So during on the open market, by buying and selling government security, they target the federal fund rate, aka the rate at which commercial banks lend from each other. Okay, that's something interesting. That's an interesting topic thing. Um, as I look at these short-term interest rates, they have been more volatile in contrast with or long-term interest rates for maturity for 20 to 30 years. So after I saw that, okay, so how bonds are affected by inflation, and I think this is the really important things to understand deeply, because this this is more like the this narrative or this storytelling that first improve my English skill, my communication skills, uh, and serve as an entry point of what matter here, which is how bond rates are affected by inflation. So bond yield, especially long-term yields, are sensitive to inflation expectation because inflation can erode the value of a bond over time. So since this can erode the value of bond over time, inflation. So when I look at the U.S. bond here, the U.S. bond, mhm, saving bonds here. Mhm. So we're looking at the saving bonds. So it's this Series E like that. So this is a short term bond, okay, and you have this B long-term bonds, okay. So how bonds, okay, how bonds rates are affected by inflation. Important thing. So how bonds are affected by inflation, especially long-term bonds are sensitive to inflation because it can erode the value over time. It can erode the value of a bond over time. Why is that? Well, because after all, a bond is a loan. So let's go to look at this. So since a bond, again, this definition is quite interesting because a bond is a fixed income instrument that represent a loan made by an investor to a borrower, typically corporate or government. A fixed income instrument that represent a loan made by an investor to a borrower. A fixed income investment. They use a fixed income instrument, okay, according to Investopedia, a fixed income instrument that represents a loan by an investor to a borrower. And they say fixed income instrument uh, because they look in bonds from the perspective of the investor who issued that bond as an asset. But for the borrower, that is a liability. You know what I mean? So depend of the perspective here, depend on the POV point of view. So from the investor point of view, it's a fixed income interest. It's a fixed income instrument that represent a loan made by the investor to a borrower. And for the borrower, it's a liability. Okay, so a bond is a fixed income instrument that represents a loan made by an investor to a borrower. To a borrower, typically a corporate or government. A bond could be thought as an IOU between the lender and the borrower that includes the detail of the loan and its payment. So could be thought as an IOU between the lender and the borrower that include the detail of the loan and its payment. Bonds are used by companies, municipalities, states, and sovereign governments to finance projects and operations. Owners of bonds are debt holders or creditors of the issue. Exactly. Owner of the bonds are debt holders, meaning that if I purchase a bond, I'm a debt holder. So that become is an asset to me because after all I buy is a debt for that or creditor of the issue. So bond detail include the end date when the principal of the loan is due to be paid to the bond owner and usually include the terms of for variable or fixed income interest, payments made by the borrower. So okay, key takeaway. So bonds are unit of corporate debt issued by a company or securitized and securitized as a tradable asset. So the definition here
Bonds are
from
units of debt issued by
the Investopedia video, okay?
companies or governments
So
that are
they say
converted
is
into
that there are unit of debt issued by a corporate or issued by companies or governments that are converted into tradable assets. So there are debts. So bonds are debts issued by the company or a government that can be converted into tradable assets. Okay? So why I'm looking at bonds specifically here? Because once you can understand at the surface level, uh, and later I'm going to look at what bonds mean, or have a dive deep into bonds. But right now, I just want to read enough following a Pareto principle, 80% or 80% of the result to get, or 20% of the effort to get 80% of the result. This Pareto principle. So I just want to read enough to develop some intuitions and then dive deep into the topic, the bonds. But how bonds rates are affected by inflation, okay, and especially long-term uh, bond yields, they are sensitive to that because the value of the bonds, because inflation can erode the value of a bond over time. So, if the value of a bond can erode over time due to inflation, okay, meaning that if you purchase debt, okay, if you purchase debt and they tell you that they're going to repay you in a period of time, and the inflation goes up, okay. So if inflation expectations are high, lenders require a high interest rates to lend funds for more in the short term. And the lender here, uh, lenders exactly, and lenders here are the people. Again, here we're talking is the loanable fund market. Here I'm talking is the loanable fund market. Do I have some, let's say, pain for that? I just wants to illustrate this a little bit more. A lot of people will say, "Hey, why did the mother use pain?" Okay, what about yeah? Deal with that, man. Deal with that pain, or no pain. Even straightforward. Uh, so we have is the uh, we have is uh, government, okay, and corporation, okay. So we have government, government. Well, yeah, okay. So we have government. No, okay. So government, okay, and corporations, So we have governments and corporations. Okay. So governments and corporations issue debt to lenders. So here you're going to see is lenders. So this is lenders. Okay, so this is lenders. Lenders. Okay, this is lenders. Okay. So governments and corporations issue that. They issue debt. They issue debt. Uh, they issue debt. So they issue debt, right, to lenders. Exactly. This is debt, right? So they issue debt. This is debt. Debt. Okay. Debt. They issue debt, right? Okay. So governments and corporations issue debt uh, that can be traded or that can be converted into tradable assets. So if the inflation and bonds yields are especially sensitive to and bond yields are especially sensitive to inflation. Okay, so bond yields are especially sensitive to inflation because the value of the bond or the debt can erode over time. So if the inflation expectations are high, lenders set the interest rates or require higher interest rates here. So lenders require higher interest rates to lend funds for more than the short term. So for example, if I'm going to look at US bond here, or the Argentina bond, just to name a country, okay, Argentina bonds, bond jumps, and government stock market with billion buyback. Argentina bonds, 3 days ago. Okay. So Argentina bonds jumped as government stock market with a 1 billion buyback. Privately held, publicly, public held. Okay. Portfolio personal inversores. Data show in billion of pesos. Of pesos. Privately held, publicly. Publicity help. Okay. According to Bomber. Failing risk. Argentina country risk has fallen in recent weeks as bonds have railed. Spread over U.S. Treasuries. Sergio Massa, the Supreme Ministry. Okay. To the South American nations, 60.1 billion in overseas bonds due to 2030 rose 2.5 cents to 35.5 cents on the dollar to the highest since October 2021. Pairing gains from early in the day in these bonds plus one material in 2020. Economy Minister Sergio Massa said Wednesday, without giving detail, the central bank will lead the process. For investors, the key question is where the money comes from. Portfolio personal inversiones analysts led by Joaquin Bagues wrote in the note, around net reserves are hovering around 6.8 billion. So this first phase of the program will consume 16.4 of this scarce stock. But in any case, they issue bonds because I don't want to deep dive into this rabbit hole. Uh, uh, Inflation expectation, U.S. and inflation as expectations Argentina. Why am I comparing U.S. with Argentina? Due to the high inflation and the correlation here of that, you know, uh, inflation expectation. Inflation expectation for New York Fed, trading economists, United States consumer inflation expectation December 2020. U.S. inflation expectations rebound from multi-day low. U.S. inflation expectations rebound from multi-day low. And what you got is this. Inflation expectations are. Analysts raise Reuters. Argentina inflation expectations December 2020. December 2022. No. What? What? Okay. Okay. That was interesting. No? Okay. Inflation expectations in Argentina remain unchanged at 80% in December from 80% in November 2022. Jesus Christ. Inflation expectations. Oh my god. Holy fuck. But what? This is yearly? I don't think so. Per year. 5 years? 10 years? Jesus. 25 years? And because they don't have that much data. 25 years. Well, at least the last until 2020, 2010, when they collect all of this. So inflation expectation were to 30%. And after the end of the pandemic, that fuck, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh for fuck's sake, nigga, oh for fuck's sake, man, oh, why I'm saying this is because since the last 12 years, the inflation expectation according to trading economic was around 30%, almost 40%, 38, 35%, and now has double more, and now that's not only double that, but go beyond that, like 80%. What is the Jesus, US uh, US inflation expectation? I have that here, but from trading economics, right? Over the last 25 years. Here we're talking about is 1%. I mean, it's one digit inflation. And Argentina has around almost, holy fuck, almost. I hope it never reached this. I hope this never reached. Uh, what about Venezuela? Venezuela uh, expect expectation inflation. Oh, I wrote that wrong. Inflation Venezuela. Oh my god. What the fuck? Holy fuck! You gotta be fucking kidding me! What the hell is this? Jesus fucking Christ. No, but again, where all this data come from? You know, it's like generally where all this data come from? Inflation rate in Venezuela decreased to 150 to 155.80% in October to 100 decrease decrease decrease. Because I think this is since 2018 is they have record of Venezuela. Otherwise they don't they didn't make that public. Holy fuck. They didn't make that public. Holy fuck. In Venezuela, the main component of the consumer price index are food and non-alcoholic beverage, 30.2% of the total weight, transport, house rental, restaurant and hotel, clothing and footwear. Really? It's about food and non-alcoholic beverage, 32.2% of the total weight, transport, house rental, restaurant, restaurant, clothing and footwear, miscellaneous goods and service, and household equipment. Others include healthcare, communication, leisure and culture, alcoholic beverage and tobacco, education, and household service. The national index has a base of 100 as of December 2007. The CPI covers the 10 metropolitan areas plus 74 other locations in the rest of the country. But the only 10 metropolitan areas. Okay, so geez, fuck. I think you okay. You're fetching data wrong. You're fetching wrong data. But in any case, so in the last, so that's the inflation expectation according to trading economics. Oh my god! And then you got is this for the 1 year, right? So the inflation expectation, okay, from the last year it was at its peak 6.8%. Mm-hmm. 6.8%. And since the Fed, especially during an economic expansion, wants to keep in check inflation and tightening monetary policy by increasing the interest rates. That's the whole idea of it. Even though when you look at bonds here, so when I analyze the historical data of the long-term and short-term interest rates, they aggressively increased the interest rates during the 70s and the 80s uh, due to the oil price shock, as they call it. That is, the petrol monarchy performed a oil embargo to U.S. because they were supporting Israel forces in the Yom Kippur War in 19 in Yom Kippur uh, War 1973. In fact, what is the Yom Kippur? High holy day of Judaism. Yom Kippur. Interesting. Yom Kippur. Day in Hebrew, in Kippur, is translated to atonement. The common English translation of Yom Kippur is a day of atonement. Atonement. What the hell is this? Atonement? Atonement. Amends of reparation made for injuries of wrong. Expiation. Okay. Okay. Atonement or expiation. Okay. Expiation. Expiation. Synonym. No. Expiation synonym. Apology, redress, reparation, restitution, atonement, indemnification, indemnity, acquaintance, recompense, reprisal, requital, restoration, satisfaction, antonymous, penalty. Uh, what's the process of expiation? Mm, mm, Yom Kippur. When they celebrate that? Yeah, when they celebrate that? Okay, 2023, 24 and 25 September. Mm. Why do they celebrate that? Yom Kippur, the date of atonement, the first month of the Hebrew calendar. Oh, the first month of the Hebrew calendar, primarily centering on atonement and repentance. The day's observance consists of full fasting, okay, and ascetic behavior, accompanied by intense prayer as well as sin confession, traditionally inside of a synagogue, alongside the related holiday of Rosh Hashanah. It's a Jewish New Year. Yom Kippur is one of the two components of the high holiday of Judaism. Rosh Hashanah, a shofar, head of the year. In the Jewish New Year, the biblical name for this holiday is Yom Teruah, day of shooting, blasting. This is the first It is the first of the Jewish high holiday days and is specified by Leviticus. Okay, Leviticus. That occur in the late summer, early autumn of the northern hemisphere. Rosh Hashanah begins a 10-day period of penitence culmination in Yom Kippur, as well as beginning the cycle of autumnal religion festival running through Sukkot and ending in Shemini Atzeret. Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day observance and celebration at the beginning. Okay, but I'm not going. I don't want to dive deep into this rabbit hole. Okay, but Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. In Spanish, el día de la expiación. All right. Okay. Cool. Interesting. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yom Kippur, the day of atonement or expiation. El día de la expiación. Alright, you gotta be. Oh my god. Yom Kippur War, also known. Oh my. Also known as the Ramadan War, the October War, in 1973 Arab-Israel War, or the Fourth Arab-Israel War, was an armed conflict fought from October 6 to 25, 1973 between Israel and a coalition of Arab states led by Egypt and Syria. The majority of combat between the two sides took place in the Sinai Peninsula and the Golan Heights, both of which were occupied by Israel in 1967. 1967, with some fighting in African Egypt and northern Israel. Egypt initially objected in the war was to seize a foothold on the eastern bank of the Suez Canal, and subsequently leveraged this gain to negotiate the return of the rest of the Israel-occupied Sinai Peninsula. Oh my god. Israel tanks crossing the Suez Canal, Israel Nasser variant of the Mirage, fighters, jets flying over the Golan Heights. Israel soldiers praying in the Sinai Peninsula, Israel troops evacuating wounded personnel. Okay, describing is different image here. It only lasts 2 weeks and 5 days. Israel military victory. Political gain from Egypt and Israel. Territorial change. Egyptian forces occupy the eastern bank of the Suez Canal, with the exception of the Israel crossing point near to the Verosua air base. Israel forces occupy 1,600 kilometers square southwestern coast of the Suez Canal and encircled an Egypt enclave of its eastern bank, but failing to occupy Suez or Ismailia. After being defeated in both the Battle of Suez and the Battle of Ismailia, Israel forces occupy 500 kilometers square of the Syrian Bashat region and on the top of the Golan Heights, bringing them with 32 kilometers of the Syrian capital of Damascus. Supported by Soviet Union, East Germany, North Korea, Pakistan, Lebanon. Holy fuck! Egypt, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Jordan, Iran, Libya, Kuwait, Tunis, Morocco, Cuba, Sudan. Oh my god. Was an Israeli politician teacher. Oh my fuck, yeah. Moshe Dayan, Anwar Sadat, Hafez al-Assad was a civil statesman, military officer who served the president of Syria from taking power in 1971 until his death in 2000. Strength, casualties, Egypt, Syria, Morocco, Iraq, Cuba, Jordan. Okay. So essentially we're living in a bubble. So essentially we're living in a bubble. Okay, so the war began in October when the Arab coalition jointly launched a surprise attack against Israel on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, which has occurred during the 10th of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan in that year. Following the outbreak of hostilities, both the United States and the Soviet Union initiated massive resupply efforts to their respective allies during the war, which leads to a near confrontation between the two nuclear armed superpowers. But they use all of those countries as proxy countries. Yeah, they're proxy countries. Fighting commenced when Egyptian and Syrian forces crossed their corresponding ceasefire lines with Israel and invaded the Sinai Peninsula and the Golan Heights. Egyptian force crossed the Suez Canal in Operation but in any case, so the Arabic coalition jointly launched a surprise attack against Israel on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, which has occurred during the 10th of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Um, okay, so you have the Jewish, so you have the Jewish, Judaism, and the Islamic. You have Judaism and Islamic. Okay, Judaism and Islamic. Holy month of Ramadan in that year. Following the outbreak of hostility, both the United States and the Soviet Union initiated massive resupply efforts to the respective allies during the war. Somewhat similar at what happened is at Ukraine. Something similar at what happening at Ukraine. But unlike back then, that is very hard to get information now with the globalization and the internet. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. 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 Fucking hell. In any case, it all started with bonds, man. I just want to know about bonds. So it all started with bonds, and then I find out some international conflict in 1973 that in, that has huge effect on the U.S. economy, and because of that, the Fed said, you know what, that's going to aggressively increase the interest rates because we don't want we want to tie so we want to have inflation in check. Okay, so we want to have inflation in check. Okay, and also I look at the what do you call that the forecast, the inflation forecast or expectations. Inflation expectation. Okay, okay, okay. This is something pretty fucked up. Okay, this is something pretty fucked up. Inflation expectations in Argentina. Okay, okay. So according to trading economics, you have this. So the TLDR from this section, all right, is that look at how bonds rates are affected by inflation and especially long-term uh, bond yields. They are sensitive to inflation because it can erode the value of the bond over time. So if expectations are high, lenders require higher interest rates. Meaning, for example, if I buy government bonds, I require higher interest rates to lend funds uh, for more than the short term. Therefore, if the inflation expectations remain high, interest rates may take longer to drop, even during periods when the Fed is cutting rates. In the long run, interest rate could even rise instead of fall. And the other thing is that countries can default. Argentina is a great example, just to mention one. So Argentina is one of them. It's like, oh, you can default and not pay the debt. So I get it. Why funds like uh, uh, what's the name of that fund? Um, or something that in Argentina they call Volter funds. Uh, Volter funds. Volter funds. Funds that seek out and buy security in distressed investments such as high yield bonds or in near default or equity or in near default. Exactly. Or equities that are in the near bankruptcy. The goal is to swoop and pick up underpriced shares that are perceived to have been oversold to make high risk buy potential high reward bets. So they don't mention is Volcker Fund, Puerto Rico debt crisis. What? Facing acute budgetary crisis in 2006 and 2007, and from 2013 and 16, when the U.S. territory has filed for bankruptcy. What the hell? The country owned as much as 120 billion in bonds and pension debt to its creditors, which include U.S. mutual fund and hedge fund managers. Leading fund managers seeking repayment including Oppenheimer, Franklin, and Aurelius Capital Management. As a result, the Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act Promesa. Promesa from Spanish mean promise. Marketing man. People in the market. The marketing, uh, they earn the proper bond. Was enacted in 2016 to restructure the territory debt and adjust its budget. Most of the Puerto Rican debt included in the 2010s are undergoing one of the largest restructuring of public debt in the U.S. history, with Volcker Fund having played a prominent role in the debt restructuring. While Argentina and Puerto Rico are extreme cases, they highlight some of the investment made by Volcker funds and resulting in substantial gains. In addition to government debt, real estate property, and highly leveraged firms are also top investors for Volcker funds. These funds are often willing to patiently wait for payouts, resulting in substantial returns. Vulture funds use alternative investment strategies, seeking bargain discount price with substantial expected return. So overall, for vulture funds and vulture fund management are not typically for the risk averse. Across the US, there are several investment managers who engage this type of investment. Some of them, some of the most popular including Atomic Capital, Canyon, Monarch Alternative, Aurelius Capital Management. Mm, BlackRock Fund. BlackRock Fund in Argentina. BlackRock thinks say climate and ESG investing attacks getting ugly personal. ESG. ESG investing. Environment, social, and governance. Okay, now I understand the jargon. Fucking hell. Oh my god. That fund giant BlackRock Inc.'s chief executive Larry Fink answered when asked this week at the okay. Okay. Why I look at BlackRock? Because Argentina has a narrative against BlackRock, especially because Argentina have default 9 times, and BlackRock has been nearby. It's very close to that. Okay. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my fucking god. Man. There are a lot of content here, by the way. So there is a lot of content here. Ah fuck. Oh, fuck. There is a lot of content here. Uh, but overall, okay, overall, after dedicating is at least an hour and a half here of looking at bond yields after recession, what are the primary tools that the Fed or the Federal Reserve has to establish monetary policy? Great. And also, uh, why uh, bonds are uh, why bonds are sensitive, or how bonds are affected by inflation, especially long-term bond yields. Uh, if the inflation expectations are high, uh, it is sensitive to that because it can erode the value of that. So if inflation expectations uh, are high, if inflation expectations are high, lenders require higher interest rates to lend fund for more in the short term. Okay. Therefore, if inflation expectations remain high, long-term interest rates may take longer to drop. Okay, long-term interest rate may take longer to drop, even during periods when the Fed is cutting rate in the long run. And interest rate could even rise instead of fall. So what I'm looking at this is that since right now I'm living in a recession, okay, 2023, January 2023, living a recession, and the inflation expectations here, according to them, because after all, you know what? It's like this data could be manipulated to that because who fucking tell you really that, right? It says that Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Okay, but according to them, right? If inflation expectations remain high, okay, interest So government bonds. So government bond long-term government bonds deal here with higher yeah, long-term interest rates may take longer to drop. Meaning is this long-term government bonds may take longer to do that. And well, this is just a fun fact to understand that generally drop during recession and the rise and rising during expansion. There have been a general decline at rates since the recession in 1982. Prior to that, interest rates were driven up because of the oil price shock, the Yom Kippur War, the Israel forces attacked the Arab forces attacked Israel at Yom Kippur, one of the holy days. Uh, and then the U.S. support Israel forces, and the Arab received support from a ton of countries that are against the uh, uh, the U.S. the capitalists, right? hmm I think these wars are more ideological. You know, I think these wars are highly ideological. Of course, you're not saying that, but and it's because the way how a particular system that is highly effective, okay, yeah, how a particular system that is highly effective to for that allows us to survive has imposed them as the North Star. So as a North Star, how this system has imposed over the others because it's highly deadly efficient. And it operates in this reality that we can perceive, right? And by that I mean is to survive and then to live a life. Uh, mm, Again, things are not black and white, and it is important to play devil advocates. So, with that, uh, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye bye.